Frisco, you went to the polls. 4 candidates, 1 seat. Nobody got 50%. So on June 13th, Saturday, you finish what you started. Mark Hill versus Rod Vilhauer. One of them will be your next mayor for the next.
He approved 2 deficit budgets. He voted for a $1.2 billion bond for the schools, which has $3.2 billion in debt right now. Our enrollment's going down every day. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to gather our council. We are going to sit down and we're going to agree. We'll all get in the wagon, and we're going to be pulling the wagon in the same direction. This election that ends on the 13th is going to set up the man for the next 9 years of leadership here. Early voting starts June 1 through June 9. Don't wait. We have to be very intentional about today and the decisions we're making today, how they affect tomorrow and 10 years. So we've got to be intentional, and we've got to do the right thing.
Today, we have Rod Vilhauer in the studio, back after his first episode here. I brought in one of the loudest voices in Frisco's political conversation, Miss Kaylee Campbell. This is a different conversation than round one. Round one was about who Rod is. Round two is about what kind of mayor he'll be. No softballs, no rehashing, no pandering. If you voted Saul, if you voted Keating, if you voted Rod, if you voted Hill, if you sat this one out, this hour matters for you. Rod, Kaylee, welcome to the Just Earn It podcast. Glad you guys are here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, hey, Rod, you're in a runoff, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, here we are. Started out at the bottom, and I think one of them quoted that, when there's 4 running, there's always one that's a waste, and that'll be Mr. Vilhauer. So, anyway.
That's what they thought, huh? There it is. And so you came in second by 810 votes.
Yes, sir.
So, in your words, what did round one, this initial election, what did it actually teach you about the city you lived in for 40 years?
Actually, the conservative vote is still here. There are a lot of conservative Christians, a lot of solid folks. And what I basically was running on, people believe in. We have a multicultural here, and some of that culture believes different. But I think we were on key, to get from the last point to be second by 800 votes. Yep. We accomplished a lot, and a lot of that was name recognition. And now that the name is definitely out there, I think I'm going to get that support I need.
Hill got 8,705 votes. You got 7,895. Were you surprised that more people from Frisco didn't come out to vote?
Yeah, I really was. It's amazing to me. 245,000 people here, 148,000 registered voters, and you got 16, 18, 20,000, 25, I think, wasn't it? 25,000 total. Yeah. It just shows you 10%. Yeah. And it's across the board.
And just from a visual reference, I was there, and I would say that the majority of the voters that I saw, that I recognized, and that was at your election night celebrate or party that we had during there. Was a community grill. Shout out to Community Grill.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yep. Wonderful.
They were kind of married. They're in their 30s, right? And Kayla, I want to ask you this question. You represent a different demographic. What do you think you can do? What would you say to the younger voters out there, the single, the new families? What would you say to younger voters out there to encourage them to get the vote?
I would say, because it's, they're starting out, they may just have like an infant or a newborn or things like that. You need to think about the future, and you need to think about, what your 5-year goal is, what your 10-year goal is. What do you want the place that you're living in to look like once your family expands? If you just, arrived here, how do you want your family to be able to develop in an area, and look out for, what's going on? You want to look out for the warnings. You want to look out for the good signs.
In your opinion, what are the warnings?
I would say a lot of negative discourse back and forth. You don't want to raise a family in a place that's going to be dangerous. You don't want to raise a family in an area where you don't trust the people living around you. Yeah. I'm just being honest. Yeah. But you don't want to raise a family anywhere where, not that you're not surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, but more so the morals and values of the people around you.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Rod, you've got a massive following in Frisco. I mean, that Sunday before the election, I remember Pastor Keith just getting up, hey, everybody, Rod Vilhauer, go out there and everybody just embrace you at the church. You've obviously built that church literally with your financial contribution and your contribution. What, $6 million of
Something like
Something
that.
like that. your equipment to build the actual foundation. So what are your followers actually saying about this runoff? You know, not to say online, but what do they tell you privately that a lot of people don't know about?
Well, you know, Bible believing, biblical worldview people understand the importance of it. And of course, their support. You know, the challenge there, a lot of our folks in our church don't live in Frisco. They live in surrounding cities. A ton of them have gone, my friends have gone to Prosper and Salina and, you know,
Sure.
larger houses, bigger area. But so the support is, it's limited. And the real deal, our churches in this community have been almost non-existent. We need to come together. I mean, the family of God, the church is, right? It's the body of Christ. It's not buildings, and there's 1,300 denominations. We're divided a lot like the Republican Party. I mean, you get every kind of different look there also. I mean, we got to go back to the foundation, which is what created this great country. It was built on biblical principles every day. And that's being just eaten away at from every angle.
Kaylee, do you see that in your end, in your demographic, your age group?
Absolutely, 100%. And something that I was going to touch on was that even younger generational Christians, like myself, need to get out and vote more, not just in the main elections, but even the tiniest, smallest election possible. Like, you have to get out there because there are other groups that are, you know, piling in the masses. They're all just heading out to the polls, and it's very important for Christian conservatives to get their voice out there.
You know, there's a lot of polls out there that say this generation is the most unchurched, unfaithed demographic that we've had in multiple generations. What do you say about why do you follow faith? Where did you get yours, and how come you follow yours? And it's obviously expressed with you on social media. How would you say that?
So, well, first off, I mean, I grew up a Christian. I grew up at a Methodist church, but I'm not proud of the Methodist church to this day. And I, you know, grew up a Christian conservative kid, went to college, you know, and then this last September, I ended up getting rebaptized because I was baptized as an infant, but I wanted to make that choice myself. And so I got rebaptized, and I would just say that my personal faith helps me stand my ground. It's where my morals and values are derived from. It's how I make day-to-day decisions. It's how I raise my family. And for my generation, I think that the implications of social media have actually kind of turned people away from it, which I hope that my voice and other people online can actually help my generation turn more towards it, because I guess it's a Gen Z thing that we just have like a really, not just a short attention span, but like, which I'm sorry, I'm dissing my own generation, but
6 7 scroll.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But we just we don't look at the long term at all. We literally just look at the short term. And I used to be like that at one point. I didn't know what I was going to do in 5 years, 10 years.
Seems like it's such a long time.
Yeah. But 10 years ago, I was
Until
in high
you're
school.
65.
Yeah, that's
Every
true.
day counts, right?
Yeah. And so it's kind of scary to see how fast time goes. But, you know, our generation, with everything that we're growing up into, we actually need to focus on the future, because if we allow the things that are currently happening to continue to happen, then we won't have a future to go into.
Wow.
And that's just bluntly how to put it.
It's profound. So the solo voter out there and the Keating voter here, they had 4 people to choose from on May 2, and they didn't pick you. What do you think other people saw in the other 2 candidates and that they didn't see in you?
Well, you know, I think all of them, you know, John Keating, great guy, nice guy, been here, served for 15 years. And I don't know, people, here's the message that I get every day. We want change.
Okay.
And Shauna, she served our city, 6 years, and with cancer, fought cancer and came back. But conservative, I just think the leadership is what they're looking for. They want a strong leader. You know, they've been watching Trump.
Sure.
And it is possible, right? You know, what Trump says, we're going to fix it. The liberals say you can't fix it. And what does he do? He fixes it, right? So I think they're ready for change. And I think they know. I've been here 42 years. I've led in this city, at least in business. On and on you go. Yeah, well, in our church, and, raised great kids. And so I think it's leadership is what they're looking for. Yeah. They want somebody to come in here and get the bull by the horns and do what needs to be done.
Brian Chase Long said that everything rises and falls on leadership. And Kaylee, you're someone that probably a lot of people in Frisco, the moderates might be skeptical of. They look at your stuff, and you've got your way of saying things. But you have a delivery. I followed you before I even met you. But what's your message to a sole voter who's watching this right now and thinking, I'm not sure about Kaylee, and I'm not sure about Rod either?
That's a good one. I would say that you have to do, really honestly, like internal reflection when it comes to what you want to decide to do. And I'm just a girl. I just make videos online. I will always speak my truth, and I will say what's on my mind. And I don't make content for people to agree with me. I literally, when I started making videos, I just started posting what I wanted to say and what I wanted to get the message across as. And
there's also research. It's not like you're just coming off the cuff.
Right.
You're researching.
Right. There are factual, facts behind the things that I'm saying. And if that makes somebody mad, I'm sorry, but a fact is a fact. But what I would tell the average voter, you don't have to like me, but we don't have to necessarily, we're not, for a presidential election, for example, we're not voting in our friend. We're voting in somebody who's going to make a difference. We're voting in somebody who's going to make a change. And I'm not saying that, your voters aren't going to be your friends, but at the end of the day, you've not only have your friends behind you, but you have so many people behind you and can also have the potential to have all these other people who may have voted for, another candidate in the past. To be able to reach that audience, it's what you can do is like offer that change and give them the peace of mind that the place that they're living will be functionable and will be profitable and will be, have economical growth in the future.
Yeah. What was your framework? What was your processing of all the different candidates out there? Why did you pick Rod?
I picked Rod because, personally, I'm going to boost my own ego for a second. I have good discernment. I have, a good judge of character. Have better discernment.
I totally agree with her.
I can tell, authenticity, and this may be a stretch, but I can just tell when people are real and when people aren't. Like, that's just in me. That's me personally. But I ultimately picked Rod because I know that not only do him and I share morals and values and beliefs, but I believe he has what it takes to change Frisco. And I may not be from Frisco, but I have so many people and loved ones here in the area that I know will be affected firsthand. And that's something that I care about. I'm not just thinking about myself, thinking about other people. And so ultimately, the authenticity, the honesty, the commitment, the dedication, the work you've put in for Frisco for the last so many years, it's things like that.
100%. So Mark Hill is a 20-year Frisco resident, business attorney, former FISD board president and director on the Frisco Economic Development Center. So on paper, it's got a strong civic resume. Make the case for why your resume, Rod, 40 years in Frisco, $370 million company, the budget that you've run, PNZ service, is the better fit for this moment in Frisco history, Rod Vilhauer.
Got you. So let me just, and I'm not here to hammer Mark Hill, but let's go back and look when he was on the school board.
Okay.
So he approved 2 financial budgets that were deficit budgets. Now, as the leader, right, who in the world, as a businessman, you go and approve a deficit budget, send that to your finance company, send that to the bank. They're going to look at you like you crazy. So here he is doing that. And then he turns around to fix that. He votes for a $1.2 billion bond for the schools, which has $3.2 billion in debt right now. And we are, our enrollment's going down every day. So I don't know what he's thinking there. So he's been on the Economic Development Council. He's pro-tax. He's a business guy, in my opinion. When people get into these government situations, hey, we need more money, we're going to spend, we're going to do what we want to do here. And if we need money, we just raise taxes. So where I come from in my business world, we watch cost every day. The only ways that we created margin, we're hard bid.
Yeah.
So your bridge, it's set. The only way you create margin is lower the river. You got to cut costs. And then what we did is talked about it every day. Looked at efficiencies, the whole deal. That's what I bring to this city. I know how to run a $360 million budget. And I'm not saying we're doing anything wrong, but I've never looked at a $360 million budget that I can't fat. That's what we called it. Where's the fat? Not what do we need. We're going to have what we need. But all these wants, we need to start looking at the next at the build out, the 14% that's left, we need to start really talking about what does that look like? What do our schools look like? You know, before, I'm going to say one more thing and I'll get off this, but when George Purefoy and Dr. Reedy started building this city and building the schools, every decision the city made was, how does it affect our schools? What do we need to do to help? I don't think in this last administration, we're not working together. And our children, our future here, their education is one of the most important things this city provides. Why have so many people moved here? Because our schools are best of the best. That's why they came.
Right. That's it. But we lived here for a year renting because we didn't know where we were going to buy yet. And we're hanging out in Louisville, Castle Hills. And that's a big, wherever we find ourselves just naturally gravitating toward, that's where we're eventually going to move. And we gravitated to Frisco.
Yes.
You know, that's why we're here today. So, I mean, is there any part of Mark Hill that you agree with? Any part of his record that you agree with? I mean, pick something. Is there any credit where credit's due?
Well, I mean, hey, Mark's a nice guy. I'm not going to sit here and diss him. The fact that he is a real estate attorney, that's his specialty. And, you know, this past administration, he's pretty tight with him. And we don't need to talk about Jeff Cheney either. He's on his way out. So the 2.0, let's just make sure that doesn't happen. And if you want to make sure there's going to be change and that's not going to happen, you really have one person to vote for.
Kaylee, I gather there's areas of Mark Hill's record that you don't agree with. Anything that you've done in your research that you may have put on Instagram that you'd like to share here in a podcast that the Frisco voters need to know?
Well, I think that his connections really speak for themselves. You know, I've made a series of videos this past week exposing the people he's surrounding himself with. And it was just some random comment that I saw the other day that was, who you surround yourself with. Tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. And the people and the groups that he's currently surrounding himself with, it's not necessarily just because of their ethnicity or their religion or anything like that. It's quite literally the actions of the people that he's surrounding himself with. And I've heard allegations of fraud. I've heard allegations of scams, con artists, all of these things. And it's like, if you want to choose to associate yourself with those people and then, you know, publicly be seen with them or have them contributing to your campaign, things like that, then that's really going to speak for itself. And so, you know, that's all I got to say right now.
Roger that. Okay. I mean, you watch local politics pretty closely. Mm-hmm. You're on it. You know, from your perspective, what should voters know about the choice between Rod and Mark? What do they need to know about that possibly they may not be hearing, you know, in the news, because sometimes the newspapers are biased and independent, you know, social media accounts and podcasters and influencers are exposing certain things. What have certain things that people may not know about that needs to be exposed, that needs to be, you know, understood before they vote?
I would say compared to Rod, the opponent has positioned himself as part of the Frisco establishment. So the opponent is here lining himself up to be the next in line after how many decades long has the connection been of the person that's been in position of mayor and been in the position of power? That's like running on almost 30 years now. And to get to the point where we want to have change, the only clear option is going to be Rod Vilhauer, because you've got these groups of people who are working very close-knit together in order to accomplish their goals and accomplish their underlying whatever that may be. But with Rod, we've got the authenticity. We've got his actions of wanting to help the community and all of the things he's done in the past to help build Frisco and help the community out, compared to all of these underlying agendas coming from the other side.
Well, let's talk about that. You know, somebody says, I want change in Frisco. I want change in Frisco. Kind of give us a picture of where Frisco has been the last 20, maybe even 30 years.
So, excuse me. Frisco, I mean, it's a wonderful city. And, you know, our past mayors, I know all of them. They've done some great things. Even Mr. Cheney, he's done some good things for the city, and for that I'm grateful. It's just, it has gotten to the point where it is a system, and so many people on boards, everything's appointed. Your P&Z's appointed. All these boards are appointed. A lot of people on EDC is appointed. We need to clean the place up, and I don't mean that negatively to anyone, but we need to break this up and bring fresh leadership in here, people that are qualified, not just friends and family, whatever, but we need to get this this city organized. The city council and the mayor has got to come together with city staff. Our city manager who runs this place, Wes, we've got to work together and make sure that we're doing what is best for Frisco and best for the citizens, not what's best for ourselves.
Yep.
It's that simple.
So Cheney was mayor for 9 years. Before he was mayor, he was also on.
He was on city council for
How long
9
was that
years.
city council?
9 years is what
So
I understand.
so
So
18.
there's 18 years there. Previous mayor was there for 9 years, Mayor Mosso, and the previous mayor, Mayor Simpson, who is 100% endorsing Mark Hill. He was there for 9 years. So there's 27 years in 3 mayors.
Got it.
And you think, well, how does this all get set up? It is, I mean, over time, it's a natural attrition, right? So
I was invited to a fundraising downtown Dallas. I mean, it was probably one of the most beautiful homes Preston Hollow. You know, it's right off the tollway and made a right. And it told me to make a right. I'm like, I'm lost. No, you keep going. Follow the GPS until you get to the house. I mean, it's right off the tollway. And I had to take the GPS. There's a fork in the road. Next thing you know, it's $63 million house is just looking at me, built by a count, right, from Italy. Anyway, got to meet the chairperson for the Texas GOP, Andrew George, who is Indian but Christian. Okay, his parents were evangelists in India, came over here. So go figure. Indian name's Andrew George, right? And so I was shaking. I was. Listen, I'm voting for Rod Vilhauer. Rod Vilhauer. A bunch of judges were there, a bunch of attorneys were there, and they just told me, Matt, just want to let you know, I'm friends with Mark Hill. I said, cool. Vote Rod Vilhauer. So, you know, so
I totally get it.
It kind of entrenched there for a minute. So, you know, when you say then, they only vote for change, qualified for change. Right? Obviously, then would be really one choice.
And there is. And, you know, here's what I tell everyone. I'm trying to unite this city. And, of course, even with our Hindu-American people, anyone, Muslim, I don't care what your race, your ethnicity, your economic status, I don't care. If you are here and you love our Constitution, you abide by that, then the First Amendment is for you, and you are welcome to worship. That's what makes this country great. Yep. But for the ones that don't, and they embrace Sharia, I'm 100% against that. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Caleb, you made a comment earlier that you want to live in a city where you feel safe. Unpack that. How do you define safe for you?
For me personally, it would be, you know, being able to walk my dog at night, being able to take my daughter on a walk at night, feel like I can walk around my neighborhood, not get stared at, go to the grocery store without worrying about being followed back to my car. I guess not hear gunshots at night, you know, just the typical things, but also feeling like my values and the things that I hold dear to me aren't being looked at in a negative way, or, you know, I'm not being targeted because of the things I believe in. Because personally, I think there's only one side that does that. Obviously, there's one side, which is the left, that doesn't agree with what we say and then makes a point to make that very known. But, you know, the right doesn't do that to the left. Yes, we call out the incorrect and wrong things that they say, but we're not targeting them. We're not putting a target on their back just because they're saying something that we don't agree with.
Yep.
But there are groups of people that do that.
It's interesting. We put our kid in a Christian school because the private school we were at in Dallas. I mean, we're in Dallas. We're driving all this distance to make sure he's in a good private school. This is 2-3 years ago, and the private school said, this Saturday we're going to have an LGBTQ awareness class. And so on the group meeting we said, we're out. We opt out. You know, it's okay. We'll teach our 6th grade of that. And then the following Monday, and we started getting hammered on a group. Like, we don't care. On that Monday, I'm picking up my son. He says, Dad, why did half my class turn gay? What? Yeah, Sarah, she told me to not call her. She's a she or a them. And my 6th grade, he's like, we haven't been teaching him this type of stuff. Kid goes to church, goes to Sunday school, right? Yeah. He goes to kids service. And he sees mom and dad. He says, well, that's interesting. If you want to play that game, call me ketchup and mustard. Yeah, exactly. At that time, 11, 12-year-old at the time. So, is that where you're thinking that you feel unsafe, like putting your kids in a school system that's having those policies, that's having that?
Oh, 100%.
Type of curriculum?
Never in a billion years would I put my child anywhere where they're going to sit here and indoctrinate them on things, one, that are not relevant to school, and two, that are not relevant to our faith, and three, not relevant to anything that has to do with growing up in the real world. They use public school, regardless of whether it's first grade or up until high school, to utilize these children to get out of school and maybe even potentially go to college and have this mindset to just, one, be victims, two, I guess that whole LGBTQ thing, don't even get me started on that, and three, just kind of become weak-minded, and then they can't stand up for themselves by the time they're functioning adults.
Yeah. Right. Is that a factor in a reason why more kids aren't in Frisco ISD schools?
Yeah, I promise you it is. There is, I'm telling you, even the Hindu American people, they are so concerned because they don't believe in abortion. They don't want their children. We don't want them pouring stuff into their brain. We said, let them go to school, be children, right? Get an education. That's why school is there. And, I was talking to that little girl that goes to our church. And she walked up to me at Lone Star. I was there they were honoring the school board and whatever. She goes, Mr. Rod, I go to our church. I go, well, that's great. I said, how old are you? 17. I said, can you take me into that library and show me books on trans? And she goes, oh, yeah. They tell us how to cut our genitals off. And it's like, what?
In a school library?
In Frisco schools. It's crazy.
So as mayor, how would you affect that?
Well, here's the deal. They say, well, the mayor doesn't have anything to do with our school system. But, yeah, I've got a voice. And what I'm telling all of our citizens, we're going to have to stand up, and we're going to be in that school board meeting. We need to let these people know this is what we want for our schools. We have a new superintendent. He's been here as assistant. I think I know he's a believer. He's got some spine, but he's got a big job because the liberals, I don't know, but that whole message is being shoved everywhere. And of course, the enemies of us in the Sharia world, they're pushing all that too. I mean, for them, if you're a man, you can satisfy a sexual need any way you need to, even with an animal. Okay, so you just think how that thought process is going.
Well, listen, I live in Frisco. You guys are here, right? And so I have my kids upstairs. We have 4 kids that 3 other families we participate. We hire a teacher, which she comes here to teach the kids. The irony, our teacher's Pakistani.
Yeah,
but she loves the fact that we love God.
Yes,
every morning the kids stand up, Pledge of Allegiance. Every morning they say the 10 Commandments.
That's awesome.
Even though she honors as a teacher, she honors. That's the way we want to raise our kids.
That's awesome.
But to the point, though, my kids aren't in ISD public schools.
No, well, so my oldest 2 went to public schools here, graduated from our high schools. My son, who is now 38 years old, said, Dad, do not let my sisters go to public school.
Wow.
And that was how many years ago? So we went to LCA. They've been in which we love that school. But here's the deal. People are pulling them out. And if they can't afford LCA, they're homeschooling. They're doing whatever, but they're trying to protect their children's mind and their spirit from what is going on.
The last place we think that would happen is in Dallas, right? Or Texas.
Yeah.
And Frisco, good old country Frisco. Yeah.
Let's talk about your first 100 days. So what do you think your first 100 days? Do you have a vision for your first 100 days, what Frisco is going to look like? And walk us through day one as mayor.
So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to gather our council, whatever that looks like. We're going to gather our city manager, whatever city staff, but we are going to sit down and we're going to agree. And maybe it takes a month, I don't know, but we are going to all get in the wagon and we're going to be pulling the wagon the same direction because even Beelzebub, right, knows that any house divided does not work. So we have got to get on the same page. Once we've agreed that we're doing what's best for the city and what's best for our citizens, then let's go to work. And this city we've got great people running our city. I know a lot of the employees have been there for years, and we do a great job. But then let's talk about what's most important. Is it? And even with our planning for taxes, got to get to know the EDC. They've got tons. They've told me there's 100 people being interviewed right now, 100 top 500 companies to come to this city. So we're going to have great companies to choose from. So let's start looking at our build out. Let's start looking at our traffic. Traffic is a huge concern. Had a conversation with a guy today about how we can fund that. But we have got to get our master plan built out. So all those issues, the traffic and financial growth and safety. Of course, we're going to stand. But there's 4 things there that we're going to deal with, and the city's dealing with every day. They've got all kinds of stuff going on to improve our city. The biggest challenge here is going to be to unite this community, and then we're going to stand against Sharia.
When you're looking at traffic, property taxes, school, public safety, growth, which is at the top of your list?
Well, depends on who you talk to on which day. Any one of those have been top of the list with multiple people. Okay. So really, I think, for the good old solid Americans, there's a lot of wealth in this city. Taxes are always an issue. I think really second to that is safety. And then safety and roads are very close. But we have got to keep this community safe. And with World Cup coming, with our Universal Studios, going to be an attraction for a lot of weirdos. So
that's right.
I know that the police right now are out out of state, and they are training for the World Cup right now.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yep.
What's one decision you make as mayor that would surprise the people you think that already know where you stand?
That's a good question. Something that would surprise the people that know where I stand. I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to make one, but at the moment, I don't know. I think really, the first 6 months to a year, you say 100 days, and you can get a lot done in 100 days, but it's going to take a year to change the narrative about our city, what's really going on in our city, get truth out to people, get some transparency. There's a lot of things that people are nervous about that they don't need to be. If someone would just communicate with them, they'd be fine. But when you don't know, then all kinds of things start running around. So we're going to calm the place down. We're going to build a strong base, and then we'll go from there.
Caleb, what do you think that would be a surprise? And you know him, you know his campaign, you know what he stands for. What would be a surprise to you? That's something he acted on. Something from left field just comes down like, boom, wow, Rod did that?
Oh, man. Like something bad or something good?
Something good. We want him as mayor.
Something good. I guess it would be, because I guess you have the jurisdiction over picking like what Fortune 500 companies will come into Frisco, right? Once they kind of make that decision, you'll get the end vote on that? No?
That'll be actually the council.
Okay.
And of course, if there's a tie, then I break the tie.
Okay.
And the way we look right now, I'm going to be making some decisions. So, gun's going to be pointed on me and pointed at me either way. But hey, let's do whatever we got to do. Let's do.
Okay. Well, then I guess I would just go with depending on who the council votes in to come into Frisco to change it for the better and things like that. That that may or may not be my reaction. Whoa, Rod did that.
There's a guy out there who's very outspoken. He's a T-Mobile whistleblower.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I had a chance to meet him at the city council meeting. The biggest employer here in Frisco is T-Mobile.
Yep.
And a lot of that conversation of, not hiring locally, but offshoring jobs. I mean, you have any insight on that?
Well, I think I don't want to say anything too bad here, but some of the things he says has truth to it. It's the way he says it. You can tell your wife that you're...
Hello, tyrants.
Yeah.
You can tell your wife, honey, your face makes time stand still, or you can tell her, honey, your face stop a clock, right? So it's how he's...
Rod.
It's the presentation. But on the other side, as an employer, a past employer, I would fire him every day he came to work because of his attitude.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Okay? So that's where I stand on that now. He has the right to speak whatever he wants to, but he does not have the right to come into our city chambers and attack people personally. And I will do everything I can. He said he's going to make a lot of money off of me, but I will do everything I can to bring honor and integrity back to our city council meetings. Public speaking time is not for people to come in and attack people and trash people. You think President Trump would allow that?
Right, and create their own social media bits.
Thank you.
I get that point. Caleb, you've been at the center of some of these conversations in Frisco. Set aside the federal H-1B debate for a moment, but what do you think people who disagree with you actually misunderstand about your positions?
I think they misunderstand the fact that it comes from, again, everything that I've ever said or stood by comes from my morals and my values, which are derived from the Bible. There are going to be things that even the people that are on my side don't necessarily agree with me on. But I think that they misunderstand the motive I have behind it, because I'm coming from not only a different generation that my viewers may be coming from, but also just my outlook on what I want my life to look like. And my life is my responsibility. It's nobody else's responsibility. And so the things that I find important may not be the things somebody down the street find that important. But again, like my social medias, for example, it's my social media account. So I'm going to say what's on my mind, and I'm still going to love you even if you don't agree with 100% of what I'm saying. There's still good parts about living somewhere or communicating with people who don't 100% agree with what you're saying, because you can get the insight that they have, and you can learn why they think the way that they think, and you can learn why I think the way that I think.
There's a cynical view of the younger voter today that their vote really doesn't matter. Give them a case why their vote does.
It 100% matters, because we're the generation that's growing up into what we're voting for. So even if, we vote today on something that may not affect us tomorrow, it's still going to matter, a year from now, 2 years from now. It could be long-term decisions that you won't see a change right away, but long-term, you have to think about the long-term, which is what I was saying earlier.
Plato once said to not at least get somewhat understanding and involvement in politics is to one day be ruled by your inferiors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, if you don't speak up against the things that you disagree with, then you're just complicit in it.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I met with a young lady yesterday, and what she says, what we love about you is that you're just real, and it doesn't take us. We know, and there's more young people concerned than what we. You were talking about numbers going down in churches on young people. I just heard on Fox the other morning that numbers are rising. Young people are going back to church. So I think a lot of that is what they need to understand is if they don't get involved, they're going to be living in what they're tolerating today. Yeah. They're ignoring whatever they're ignoring. They've got to step up. Yeah. Our average voter age in Frisco of the conservatives, take a guess. Did I say it?
50s?
30.
61 years old. Wow. So we're dying, right? Wow. They have got to. These young people got to take their place.
Yeah. I love it. That's why I'm so excited for you, Kaylee, and attracting that younger voter. Frisco is 1/3 Asian. It's growing. It's diverse. Whatever each of you believes about federal immigration policy, that's not what we're talking about. But as leaders in a city, how do you serve and represent everyone who lives here?
Right. So, really getting to know the Hindu community. I've met a lot of leaders, a lot of great people there. And these guys have been here 30 years, 25. They came the right way. They've built great companies, very successful. One thing about those folks, they come here to work and they make money. They pay taxes, some of the highest taxpaying group in this whole country. But they've even said, listen, the H-1B's been around so long. We'll tell President Trump, just kill it, wipe it out, and start over. Because if they need our talent, they will come find it, right? Mm-hmm. And they said, we don't want the fraud and all the abuse and the craziness. Yeah. Get these people out of here, send them back, and let's start over because they're honorable. And the longer I'm in this deal, we need the H-1Bs. Yeah. We really do. Now, the abuse of it and absolutely not. It's got to be cleaned up because the more I learn, the messier it is. And I probably know the tip of the iceberg, actually, of what's going on. But I know that I think really people that love this country that have been here and they know, somebody said, Rod, there's no place on the planet that I could have came here at 15 years old and become what I've become. America's the greatest country in the world. Amen. We want to keep it that way.
That's right.
So,
amen to that. So, round one turnout was 25,000 votes in a city of 250,000. Runoffs usually have a lower turnout. So, Rod, what would you say? Tell every single Frisco voter who voted for you on May 2nd why they should show up again June 13th.
So your vote was important on May 2nd, but it's twice as important on the 13th. And remember, early voting starts June 1 through June 9. Don't wait. And I know there's going to be people on vacation. We've talked with them. We're going to give you an opportunity for mail-in voting, but get out and vote early. Try to move that vacation where you're at least here one day to vote because it is going to be the vote that makes it happen. We either get them or we don't.
100%. Kaylee, you have an audience. So right now in this podcast, what's your direct call to your followers by getting your followers to the polls June 13th?
I would say tell your friends, tell your friends' friends, tell your friends' friends. Keep the chain going. Get out there. you're going to grow up in this area. If you live in Frisco, if you live in the area, you are going to be affected by what you vote for, or you are going to be affected by the things you don't choose to stand up against. And so it's up to you to make that choice and make that decision for your future self and for the sake of your, future.
I love it. Yeah, I'm going through physical therapy for my shoulder from reconstruction, and I'm up there in Prosper, and Kayvon Frazier, shout out to Kayvon. He's got a physical therapy, former Dallas Cowboy. So all these athletes are getting rehab there for getting ready for OTAs and getting ready for the season. And come to find out, a lot of them live in Frisco. So I'm like, hey, text them, hey, are you guys voting? You guys voting? I'll pick you up. Let's go together. Da, 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 da. Simple things that right? Did you vote? I'm seeing my property slide. Well, go early voting.
Yes.
So be proactive and get the word out. I'm inviting people like it's my birthday party.
Yes. Yes.
You got to be excited. You got to be fired up. And as many people talk about what's going on in the federal side of things, Rod, what's one thing why voting local is more impactful based on how we're living than really voting on the federal side of things?
Because this is, Frisco, it's a family-oriented city. The decisions that are made here affect your immediate family more than a local or even a state. And all those are important. But I believe all government and the way it was set up, it starts in our local communities. Then it goes to our county, then it goes to our state, and then to the feds. So you think that your vote doesn't matter. Yeah. It matters greatly because the leadership that you put in place or allow to be put in place affects you more than you think.
One thing at Elevate Life, Pastor Keith is always saying every service, church we're in about 26 years now, right?
Yeah.
Every service, every Sunday, he does not skip. Hey, invite a friend. He's always inviting.
Yes.
That spirit of invitation. And you see Elevate Life Church, just newer people, younger. You got all sorts of demographics. When we first started going to this church, Keely, it says, right, Elevate Life. Pastor Keith's in shape. He's 60-some years old.
66.
He's 66. Yeah. He's got biceps out to here. He's got broad shoulders. He's strong. And he's still tearing up phone books and still, feats of strength. And my wife was making a comment because, you were just observing people. He said, hey, babe, do you got to work out to come to this church? Everybody.
But he teaches, spiritual health, physical health, emotional health, financial, mental. It's the whole deal. Yeah. He has worked out consistently every day of his life since he was 15 years old. Wow. But it's part of what matters most to him. Health is very important. And that's what he said, if I'm going to teach it, I need to live it. Yeah. And one thing I've known the man for 30 years, and there's nobody on the planet that walks what he talks more than that guy.
Yeah.
Right there.
To my point there, you got to be excited about your city. You got to be excited about Frisco. Yes. This is your home, is our home. And, we're investing here. We're investing our businesses here. We're investing our families here, our homes here. We anticipate to be in Frisco for a very, very long time.
One more thing. Just this election that ends on the 13th is going to pretty well set up the man for the next 9 years of leadership here. So it's extremely important to get out and vote.
Yeah, that's it. Let's get out to the polls. Invite your friends. Be excited about voting. Just simply ask people. I'm at a restaurant. I may not even know people. If I can sell for my business, I can sell for the church. I can sell for my city.
Yes.
I just ask, hey, by the way, you voting June 13th? Yes. People are like, oh, when's the election? Okay, it's June 13th. By the way, can I exchange information with you so I can, so that way we can be friends and.
If you have any questions, if you need yard signs, if you want flyers to hand out, anything, go to our website, rod@rodvilhauer.com, and you can get in. We will deliver to your door anything you need.
Look at that. I love it. Well, the job of the next mayor is to lead all of Frisco, every neighborhood, every family, every faith, every voter. And so whoever you vote for, show up on June 13th. Rod, Kaylee, thank you for coming. This is awesome. Thank you for being here to our Just Earn It podcast. One last thing before I let you go, Rod. If Frisco is going to earn it, how would you define it? How does Frisco just earn it?
How do they earn it?
How to earn it. Their future, happiness, safety, growth, the way God meant to be.
We have to be very intentional, right, about today and the decisions we're making today, how they affect tomorrow and a year from now and 10 years. I'm my grandchildren, right? That's who I'm looking at now. So we've got to be intentional and we got to do the right thing, right? It's not complicated. Do the right thing.
That's it. Well, see you at the polls, June 13th. Early voting starts June
1 through 9. And then final day is the 13th.
Let's go.
Thank God it's Saturday the 13th. Not
That's right. 13th. That's right. That being said, guys, appreciate you tuning into the Just Earn podcast. Even though so yet, make sure you like, drop your biggest takeaway in the comment section below. Share this with a fellow Frisco resident and make sure they see them at the polls June 1st to the 9th. Early voting, June 13th at the polls. That being said, on behalf of Kaylee, I have Rod Vilhauer, future mayor
yes,
of
go.
Frisco, Texas. I'm your money smart guy. Until we meet again. Continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today. God bless you. Bye-bye.